This is Scott. I just got done rendering out my ant feeder video, and I realized as I was editing it, it was just a little too deep and too much for people that aren't interested in learning about like helix and doing, you know, revolves. See, this is my life. I can't remember things. Revolves and just different advanced features. I kind of wanted to make a beginner tutorial and take it to a very simple level. Again, this is an older version of Solidworks, but the things I'm going to cover right here are going to be in 2018. The buttons might look a little different. I used 2018 at our shop. I kind of wanted to test out and see how much feedback I'd get from you guys and like say, oh, we want more videos, design me this, design me that. So please comment and let me know what you think. There are tutorials in SolidWorks, so if you click on tutorials over there, there's going to be a few tutorial options. I recommend going through these. They really help get the basics and let you understand, you know, like circular patterns, making assemblies, just simple parts. So hop in there, play around with them. If you have any questions, shoot me a message on this video. But today we are going to be doing just a simple part. I'm probably just going to make a box with some holes in it. I don't know what it is. I just want to kind of go through these things and show you what it can do. So we're going to hit new. When you hit new, you have three options. You're going to have either a part, an assembly, or a drawing. A part is an individual part. An assembly is more than one part. And a drawing is basically a communication of that part on a flat 2D surface. You can do 3D renders too, but it's, you know, you can PDF this and send it to people for quoting or just for dimensional checks. So we're going to start with part. When you load this up, here's kind of your blank canvas. You know, you can't really see anything. I'm zooming in and out. You can't tell. I'm spinning it around. There's nothing here. You kind of see down here your orientation in space. You have your planes, which you don't see those either because I zoomed way out. So you kind of have your starting planes. You can stretch these big or small. It's irrelevant. It's more of a visual representation of where you're going to be working. So what I usually do is I come to my sketch tools and I'm going to start with a square. And it asks me what plane I want to choose. We see that plane I stretched really big now is still really large, so I recommend not messing with those because it kind of screws up the layout. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you pick the plane you want, top plane. I'm going to right click to choose a center rectangle, which basically draws from the center out. So I choose my center point and I stretch it, and it's going to kind of do this. And you can see all the parameters on the left there. So when I let go or when I click, it's going to drop that square there. And I can come over here and manually adjust all this stuff. I can also hit D for dimension, which I have set up as a shortcut. Really quick, if you go into your customize, I'm going to drag this over here. You have keyboard shortcuts, and you can search for whatever shortcut you want. So for instance, if I want to look up distance, I'm sorry, it's called Smart Dimension. Smart Dimension right there, it's in my dimensions. I have the shortcut set up as D, so when I hit D, it brings up my dimensioning tool. You can go through it. There's tons, you know, like if I go to extrude, if I want to shortcut just extrude, I can put whatever E in there. I'm not going to hit it because I might already have shortcuts set up and I don't want to override them. So I'm going to hit cancel in here. So I hit D and it brings up this little dimensioning tool by my mouse arrow. And I'm just going to pick that line and say it's, you know, 165 millimeters, and I'm going to pick this line and it's 110. Now notice one thing as I dimension those. I'm going to Control Z to go back. You see how they're blue to start off with, and I can move everything around? Well, as I dimension these, we'll go 110 and hit enter. Notice these are black. What that means is that they're defined in space, and I cannot move them. They're stuck at 110 millimeters from each other. And I'm going to hit normal to up here, which will bring me, you know, straight on. And if I click that, it's going to show me that they're vertical also. So this is a constraint or a relationship, and it's vertical. So if I didn't want that to be vertical, I could delete that out, and it would allow me to do some crazy stuff. But in this scenario, I want it vertical. So if I accidentally delete it, I can highlight that and just click it and say make vertical, and it makes it vertical again. So I'm kind of trying to step you through issues you might run into as you get designing and deleting things. A lot of them I take for granted and I just do them out of instinct, but I apologize if I skip anything. I just want you guys to learn the basics and go in there and test it out. Fail a little bit. There's tons of ways to do the exact same thing. And as new versions of SolidWorks come out, you know, they're reinventing the ways you can do things. They're simplifying them, but a lot of the core functions and features have not changed. You know, you're extruding things and you're putting cuts in things, but the features they're adding just simplify how you do that. So we're going to go now dimension this because this guy's blue, meaning it can move freely. So I'm going to go in here. I'll just say 100 and I'll just say 100. All right. So I'm going to hit this little checkbox. And now I'm still in the sketch, and I know I'm in the sketch because this little exit sketch guy's up here and discard sketch. So if I hit exit sketch, now I'm just stuck with my sketch. It turns kind of a grayish because it's not active. To activate it, I can click it and hit edit sketch. I could come over here, right click, and hit edit sketch. Or I could just come up here to a feature. If I know I'm going to extrude this, I can hit extrude, and it's going to ask me to choose a sketch. I can pick this, or I can come in and pick that sketch there. So we'll just extrude this to like 25 millimeters. So now we have a sweet 3D object. Save it as an STL and go throw it on your printer. You're done. Just kidding. That wasn't funny. So we're going to do some more things to this item. So if I want to add some cut features, for instance, maybe I want to make a pencil holder. See, I'm talking and I'm skipping over explaining to you what I'm doing. So I'm going to take one step back. Say I want to put a groove on here where I can lay a pencil in, and this sits on my desk. Well, the first thing I need to do is define what face I'm going to be working on to do that extruded cut. So I can either do that by clicking that face and coming up here and saying extruded cut, and then drawing whatever feature I want on there. So I want a circle, and then I can come over here and say extrude it, and it'll extrude it. Or I'm going to exit this, I'm going to back out, delete that sketch I just made. I can also say extruded cut, and it'll say, well, what face do you want to work at? And I say that face. I can go normal to, so I'm just looking at it straight on. I'm going to hit S, which brings up kind of a shortcut commands for sketches. If I'm not in a sketch, it'll bring up a shortcut commands for features. So see what it is on yours. It might be S, it might not be S. So I'm going to draw a circle here, and so I'm going to draw it out in space and kind of show you guys how to define relations. So I draw that, and I want it to be, a pencil's probably like 6 millimeters, so I want the diameter of this to be 6 millimeters. That's probably about right. I'm probably totally off there. It's probably more like 9 millimeters. And then I'm going to bring this sketch, and I want it to be on this line here. So if I choose that center point, hold Control, choose that line, I'm going to say coincidental, and then I'm going to choose that point, choose this point, and I'm going to say vertical. Now you notice it turned black because we have it defined the diameter, we have it defined in the X and the Y space, and it knows what plane it's on. So now that sketch is fully defined, and you can see down here it also says fully defined. So those are just some of the things you can watch out for to make sure your sketches are fully defined. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to hit extrude, I'm going to tell it to go through all. So it'll go all the way through that part. If you had more stuff out here, it would just go through to infinity and delete everything. There's also, you know, I talked about this in the other tutorial that you probably will never watch, but there's these things like up to next, so I could pick a surface and it would go up to, sorry, it knows to go up to the next surface. Up to surface, I would pick that and it would go up to there. We can just leave that, that's fine. And there you go. That's a very simple extrude in a part. Notice that if I go edit this sketch, so you can always come back here and click these with the left mouse button and it'll let you edit the sketch. If you right click, it gives you a few more options, but you can still come up here and edit the sketch. So notice if I deleted that out and left that blue, if I come over here to my design tree, no, it's not doing it. That's very interesting. Let me see if it does it on this one. Oh, yep, I think it's doing it here. So sorry, I totally missed that. So let me undo that and fully define it again. Exit that sketch. Yeah, so in these parentheses, you got this little dash and this one doesn't have it. This means that sketch is not fully defined. Meaning if I click it, edit sketch, I'm going to see some blue in there somewhere. So that's something to watch out for as you design things. You want to make sure everything is fully defined. You don't want somebody coming in here and editing a sketch and accidentally dragging something they shouldn't be doing and, you know, moving things apart. There's also, you can make anchors. So basically if you know this does not move, you can anchor it. I'm getting this error because it's over defining it. So something else is wrong in here. So it's probably, so if I delete that, it's basically I had too many relationships that were defining that sketch, so it just errored out. But again, if I leave that error in there and I exit the sketch, so it's not going to let me see it. It gave me an error. It pops up with this notice, and it's saying the sketch is overdefined, you know, blah, blah, blah. Usually these are good to read. Just hit close, and you notice this yellow exclamation. That means there's a problem. Edit it. It'll kind of show you in yellow what the problem is. I'm going to delete that anchor. I'm going to come in here, do that, fully define it. Everything's good. So those are really the simple, really simple basics of SolidWorks and properly designing things from the beginning. Like programmers, it's also good to keep notes kind of what the code does or like what your design process was or your thought process. So like here you can say, you know, base, extrusion. Oh my goodness, I can't spell. I really cannot spell. So base extrusion, and then here you can put, why does that extrusion not seem like I spelled it right? No, it's right. I don't know why. And then here you can put, you know, like pencil, hold, cut out, and then that'll just give you notes on, you know, what that feature is, because as you design some of these parts, you're going to have hundreds of different functions you're doing to that part. So you want to make sure you kind of keep track of those. That's about it. Oh, another quick note, you can just click on a feature and it'll kind of take you over here in your design tree to that point. You can also change the material if you want to edit the materials. These are my favorite materials that I use every so often. You can also, that's it. That's it. We're not going to go too much further. I'm going to get in too much detail and then I'm totally going to lose you. I want you to play around with this, make yourself some parts, make yourself some random easy extrusions and cuts. You can get into more in-depth tutorials if you need it, but make sure to check out my next tutorial video, which I have no idea what it will be yet. I need to design some fixtures for my laser system, so I will definitely be kind of documenting that as we go through it. Thank you very much for checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Subscribe to my channel, please. I think you're allowed to digitally beg for subscribers. Maybe that's illegal. I was just kidding. Yeah, subscribe to my channel. There'll be more of this kind of videos. Make sure you ask questions in the comments. Please don't leave horrible, mean comments unless they're funny. And come back, check me out. Goodbye.